Anyway, this week we're going to talk about portraiture and capturing a likeness. Now, as you can see here, I've got a reference photo set up. Okay, this is just a copyright-free photo from Unsplash. I have no idea who this guy is or anything like that. I just thought he had an interesting look and would make a good subject. Okay, interesting in that his head is kind of tilted down. Yeah, it's just got some interesting challenges. Now, I've always felt that when doing portraiture, it's a lot easier to do older people than younger people, and that's because older people, generally speaking, are more interesting. There's more wrinkles, more lines, more creases, and the more of that kind of thing you have going on, the more it is to kind of figure out the placement of the various facial features. Okay. Now, to help this along, though, you can see here on my drawing page here, I've actually drawn out some guidelines. Now, I am weirdly particular about this kind of thing, primarily because my master's degree is in illustration. And in illustration, we tend to be a little more technically inclined than other areas of visual arts. We want to make things be as accurate as possible. Okay. Now, just keep in mind that I am using Photoshop for this again because I'm not really set up for recording pencil drawings right now. But when you do your portrait assignment, typically what I would use, what I think works best for doing a portrait would be the ebony pencil. I usually use an ebony pencil. For this though, I'll just be using a pencil tool just to sketch out the initial thing and then go from there. All right. So back to the guidelines here. You can see here that I have basically the width of the head. And if you are working on a regular drawing board and just using a pencil and stuff, what I would typically do is I just use my fingers. I'll just take my forefinger and my pinky and kind of like take a measurement of the reference photo, the guy's head, and just kind of mark those on my paper, and then go from there. I also have a little guideline here: top of the head, bottom of the chin, top of the ear, eyebrow, nose, mouth. Just to kind of help things along. Okay, there's nothing wrong with using whatever tools you can to do the job. Now we're just going to start off with your typical circular shape. Okay, just like you would any other head that you're drawing. Okay, now the first day of class, when I had you guys drawing each other, I did a quick demo on doing portraiture or capturing a likeness, and we started out this way. So you start with the basic circular shape, figure out okay, where is the angle coming down, and you try and figure out okay, it's going to be like right about here, something like that. You're looking for the center of the face, and then by doing that, you can kind of figure in the angle that the head is tilted at. It's going to be something like that along those lines. Now, you can get rid of this the circular shape after a while, but you want to make sure you get everything figured out first. All right. Now, as far as the eye line is concerned, we have that sort of figured out already. Okay, with the guideline here, which is it goes about like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of some of these extraneous lines here. A lot of times, as I've said in other videos, I will just draw on top of my sketch lines and eventually kind of blur those, just kind of blend them in together. But for clarity's sake, I won't do that here. Okay, that looks about right. About there. Okay, now we'll just start putting in various features. Like I said, we've got, this is the eye line right about here, so the ear is about in this area here, so you sketch in sort of a C shape. Okay, and then the actual jawline is something like that, and the bottom of the nose is right about here, so we'll just start sketching in where those things are. Mouth right about in there somewhere. Eventually you can get rid of these guidelines once you've got it kind of figured out. Just leave those in for the time being to kind of make sure you're where you ought to be. Okay. Now the interesting thing is with when you're doing things like the noses and stuff like that, this guideline that comes down through here actually can help you figure out, okay, how far out from the face does this nose need to go? Okay, and you know, what's it going to take to get it back in there? That can help it feel more three-dimensional. I have to put a little more detail in here. In this case, too, we've got some interesting sort of brow work here. Put in the general shape of the where the eye is going to go. So you can sketch out and figure out where everything goes first. You want to do that before you start putting a lot of extraneous detail. Okay, the shape of the head's a little pointy up here, so we can fix that. Just start roughly sketching in. Pull that out just a little bit more. Right about here or so. Okay. All right. Now there is the rough sketch that I've got so far. Now, these things generally take me a little while to do. So I'm gonna stop the recording for just a bit while I do some of the extraneous detail, and I'll pick it back up in just a moment when I'm a little further along. Okay? See you in a sec. You can see now I've gone ahead and made a number of corrections as I'm sketching along, just sort of like going along and fixing what I need to, where I need to, and all of that. Um, and that's, that's the way it is with drawing. You can always just like make corrections, make changes, and just keep, sketching as you go. The placement was generally correct. I had to make a few minor changes here and there, but generally speaking, it's not too bad. As I'm working along here, I'm just sort of adding a little more detail, slightly shading, and just a little bit here and there. Adding just a little more detail here and there as I go. Looking at like the shape of the nose and the wing of the nose and stuff like that. And the nostrils you can't really see. So I'll start actually sketching in some of the shading a little bit. Sees quite a lot of this part of the face is in darkness. So I can kind of sketch in just a little bit of dark to see if it's looking about right. A little bit of hair representing the mustache. Start putting in a little bit of the wrinkles of the forehead and things like that. Again, you can use whatever pencil suits you best. I find that I like using an ebony pencil because you can blend with it really well. That's what I would normally be using. But in this case, I need to, this isn't an in-class demo, it's an online one, so I'm using the tools that I have at hand. This guy's got an odd little beard, so need to try and figure that thing out. Kind of goes down to about here or so. So I'm just going to put in little lines denoting that that's where it's going to be. I think I'll clear out a little bit of space there for the mouth. Whoops, don't need to see that. Again, just kind of going along. My eyes, you can't see them, but my eyes are actually going between, they keep roving between the reference drawing, or the reference photo and the drawing, back and forth, almost never stopping. As I'm just kind of looking for little things that I can sketch in that'll kind of sell the illusion. Okay. Yeah, interesting thing about faces. Nose and the ears, they never stop growing. That's why as people get older, sometimes their noses and ears seem to get bigger. Also, their eyes tend to get more sunken into their head. That's why little children, it always looks like their eyes are just laying there on the top of their face. At least that's my impression. Okay. Just a little hint of shading along here. Get the angle of the mouth a little bit better. Okay. All right, let's take these guidelines off, see how we're doing. Okay, that's coming right along. Got a little bit of things I need to change here and there. You pull this line in a little bit here, and that's the way it is. When you're doing a likeness, trying to capture a likeness, what you want to do is start off with that basic head shape, that circle, and that chin, and figure out where the center of the face is, and build up from there. At first, it's not going to look like anybody. At first, it's just going to look like a generic cartoon person, like a Charlie Brown or something. And that's normal. That is perfectly normal. But the further you go and the more detail you add, the more it starts to become a likeness. Okay? Like in this case here, I'm starting to add more wrinkles and more lines and stuff. And the further I go with it, the more it is starting to look like the figure in the reference drawing. Now, for the assignment that I'm going to have, that I want you guys to do, basically what you're going to do is find a picture that you think is interesting, a photograph of someone. I would prefer, okay, well, let's just say this. I'm going to insist that it be a head and shoulder shot. If you want to take this opportunity to draw a friend or a family member, something like that, that's always a popular thing. People like to do portraits as gifts If you want to do that, that's fine. Not gonna not gonna say no. But the big trick though is that you get a decent photo. Okay, a high DPI, very large, um, detailed photograph. Now, as I said, this photograph is actually taken from Unsplash. Unsplash has free to use, copyright free photographs. Okay. I highly recommend using Unsplash. You can just type in, you can go to the People tab, and you'll have a large variety of people to draw, a lot of, to choose from. Or you can type in for this. I had typed in portrait because a I wanted to have just a head and shoulders shot to work from. Okay, now I'm going to turn off the recording just a little bit, because I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll turn her back on when I'm a little further along. Okay, and we'll talk to you guys in just a sec. Okay, now as you can see, I've gotten a little further along here. Uh, Kind of refined a little more of my drawing, adding a little more shading here and there, like on the second half of the face, things like that, and make it look more like the likeness. Okay. Now, as I said, these things usually take me a fair amount of time to do, so that's why I've been turning the video on and off periodically. It's probably been about, I don't know, half an hour or so since I turned this thing off. Hard to say, because I kind of tend to lose track of time. I didn't want this video to be 8 hours long or something like that. Generally speaking, I can get something like this done in the space of a 3-hour class. And I don't usually lecture the entire time that I am drawing and doing the demonstration. I'll just kind of pop in here and there to show the students some interesting things as we kind of go. Okay, so I'm putting in a little bit of shading here and there. I'm using fairly short strokes just to kind of keep it right. Now I'm going to go and zoom in here a little bit. I'll put in a little bit of extra work there. You can see I'm using this kind of a cross-hatching style for this sort of a thing. Um, Not really doing a whole lot of blending yet, and I can do that. I can do that digitally if I need to, but don't be afraid to use your drawing pencil and blending stump to get the effect that you want. But remember, contrast is always good. Okay, there. Okay, that's got a little ways to go yet, but it's not too bad. All right. Uh, to reiterate, what you want to do is find a reference photo that's big enough to work from. Okay. Sketch out that initial sort of circular shape of the head. Figure out the direction the face is pointing in. Figure out the eye line and the tip of the ear, right? And then go from there. Okay. Now let's zip in there. All right. So I look forward to seeing your guys' stuff. I will probably post I'll probably work on this a little bit more and post another video the further along that I get. Um, but other than that, I think that covered it. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.